let's get into today's show. The first thing that we've got at the top of the show today is Tucker Carlson. You've probably heard this story. He's been axed from Fox News effective immediately. And I've got to say, Ed, do you think this is all a ruse by that media company, and they're just kind of saying that he's gone and the share price takes a dip and then they bring him back on a brand new show or something like that? Do you think it's a false flag maybe, or am I just
No. He's out. And of course, the official line is they parted. They parted ways. They didn't say he was axed. We won't know the real story until the movie comes out, about the whole thing. Look, when Tucker comes back on some platform and he tells us the truth, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a non-disclosure, maybe there's a contractual thing where he can't say certain things, who knows? So we might not ever know the actual story, except through, anecdotes, but the net result is he's not on Fox anymore. That's all that really matters.
I want to show a overlay here of what's actually happened. I think it's pretty crazy. So again, just a couple of minutes before this show, I just, I grabbed this screenshot. It says Fox Corporation sheds $962 million in market value after announcing Tucker Carlson is leaving the news network. But when you look a little bit closer, they had a $787 million defamation lawsuit that settled last week as well. So that was part and parcel of that crash. So I don't think that full 962 is what Tucker is worth, but he's certainly worth a lot of money to that media outlet. And it really kind of beggars the question, like, why on earth would they do that? And to your point, Ed, you did a funny little analysis here, and I'll let you take it away in a sec, but it's kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? And, if Darth Vader strikes me down, and the evil Darth Vader being Fox, they're the villain, right? Then he's going to become more powerful. And people like Megyn Kelly, and there's so many conservative voices out there that are in independent media and do exceptionally well from that as well. And I think they're not masters to these big evil empires at the same time, but they're still able to make an exceptional living out of it and share with the world what their views are, because they're incredible communicators.
Well, Fox's brand has always been that it was an antidote to the usual mainstream media, right? Now, in a lot of ways, Fox is not that conservative or traditional anymore. And people have been noticing that the coverage at that station has over time been watered down quite a bit. And they are now starting to lean toward the woke side. But then you got Tucker Carlson, that little island there of traditional values and conservative values. So, and he was the #1 rated show on Fox. So yeah, they axed their top talent. Yeah, their big rainmaker. So you got to wonder to what degree ideology is starting to play a role. Ideology, all this ESG stuff going on with these corporations. Those aren't smart moves if you're worried about your share price. All right. So they're making decisions based on ideology. And that's what our world has come down to. People vote for people not because they think he's the best person to represent them, but because he's the flag bearer of their particular tribe. That's why. So and same thing with Fox News. So it just feels like they're making decisions not based on, sound business practices, because if they were, they would hold on to Tucker with both hands. So that's what it feels like to me. That again, we don't know the whole story, but just reading between the lines, that's the way it feels right now. Is that the wokeness is starting to seep in at Fox, which is a shame, because up until now, their brand has been, this is the one place people could go for a countering opinion to all of the rest of the media out there.
It's really interesting watching what's happening in the American media landscape. And you might be watching this or listening to this thinking, why do I care? Who cares about Tucker Carlson? Who cares about that? But the reality is, the person that he's a huge influence on your thinking process and the way you think about things, because he's shedding a different perspective and a different light on your view of the world. And that's the thing that we need more of. Here in Australia, we have Sky News, and Sky News is full of conservative views and then some leftist views as well. But the mainstream ABC News, which is funded to the tune of $1 billion, I think maybe even a bit more, by the Australian government, is hugely left-leaning, massively left-leaning, and they're leftist greenies who are actually really quite unpleasant, if I'm honest. And it's that side, it's that Whoopi Goldberg type journalism that you see here in Australia, for heaven's sake. And those voices are not the voices of reason or the voices of truth. They're the voices of ideology. And I'm not entirely convinced, Ed, that Fox News got rid of him because of woke ideology. I can't quite get myself there, because I was thinking about it yesterday. I watched a bunch of pundits on YouTube as I was kind of chilling out on a day off yesterday, and I was thinking that maybe it's not so much the woke ideology that's in there, but that's the cover for deep state, because deep state owns all of this mainstream media, and they're the ones that force the narrative upon us. They're the ones that lie to us. They're the ones that tell us what actually works and what doesn't work. And that's when Donald Trump would get up in front of a lectern and call on CNN and go, "No, I'm not talking to you, you're fake news." And the reason that it's fake news is because the people behind the deep state are trying to perpetuate a narrative there. And that narrative doesn't suit what Donald Trump is trying to say. So he just simply doesn't ask them a question. And Fox News are not immune to that. Fox News, as you say, a pretty woke organization anyway, and Tucker Carlson's the island of reason there. So I'm not sure if it's the woke ideology there. That's the cover. That's definitely there. But do you think maybe, Ed, that there's also something else going on behind that? Because he's suddenly so far outside of the narrative that deep state wants you to actually believe in, they've got no choice but to give him the chop.
Well, again, we'll find the answer to that question when the movie comes out. We can't. We're just speculating, right? But I can tell you, and I should have researched this before the show, that there have been over the past few years some very important hires. They hired some new upper management people who have very strong ties to the left. And when I learned about that, I said, "Oh, here we go." They're going to start making policy changes, and I think that's starting. I think that's what's starting to happen. I should have grabbed the name of the guy, because people would recognize the name of the hire, and people would be surprised and shocked. How could they hire that guy? So there were warning signs. It's there if you look for it. Now remember, circling back to the CNNs of the world, and the MSNBCs, their ratings are god awful. They're really, the Cartoon Channel regularly beats the ratings on these shows. And people would say, well, why do they continue to pursue the Rachel Maddows of the world if they know that if the ratings go down and down, it's a money loser? Well, I'll tell you why. These news outfits, MSNBC, CNN, these are just part of a puzzle of bigger corporations. So these corporations, they view those little projects as lost leaders for the company, because it fits their overall woke agenda. They don't mind losing money on the audience, because that's a philosophy they believe in. So they're not looking to make money off of their news programs. That's fine, but it isn't. Those are important mouthpieces for getting their messages out. Serving their master, and it's a shame. This is why capitalism is so important, because capitalism always searches for it always caters to the consumer, right? It gives the consumer what it wants. But when you have communism and fascism as your basis, as your baseline, you don't care so much whether you're making money or not. So
I don't see American TV because I'm in Australia, but I do see American TV YouTube clips all the time, and I try and look at that stuff. I try and look at that NBC. I look at that CNN stuff, and the vast majority of the reason that I'm looking at it, and the vast majority of reasons why I'm looking at that mainstream media, is to try and get a different view of the world, to get an objective view. Because I think, I started off by saying in jest that, why do you care about this? Like, who cares about Tucker Carlson? But I think it's a really important thing that you take the time to listen to the alternative views.
Right.
And we live in a society where you're just on one side. And part of the problem that we have here in Australia is that we seem to be a very divided country for some reason. And it seems like the left side of politics is really polarizing us. And that's amplified by lying politicians that are amplifying the lies of the left, which is related to climate change. It's related to masks, which are related to jabs, and all of these things that are out there. These politicians are amplifying the lies. And the thing that I'm tired of, it seems to happen there in the States more than it does here in Australia, because the she'll be right, happy-go-lucky attitude of Australians is like, whatever, man, I just don't care. We're a bit more relaxed than you folks in America. You're kind of a bit more high-strung, right? But if I'm out there on the right side of a view and a conservative side of a view, and I go and say something that the left don't like, I get shouted down. And when these people shout me down, they call me a racist and they call me a misogynist and they say all of these really derogatory things that I would never dream of saying to somebody else. And then I'm sort of like just left baffled thinking, why do they go straight there and call that person racist? What has racism got anything to do with what that person's saying in relation to their views? And I know I'm just talking generally about this, but we've seen this in our society a lot in the last couple of years. And part of the reason that Tucker Carlson's so important, because somebody might be watching this or listening to it thinking, why do I care? Who cares about Tucker Carlson? Well, I think it's important that you understand both sides of the aisle. And I think you understand both sides and both views, because if you're just living inside the echo chamber that you are in and you're hearing the same things over and over again, you might fall into the trap that the left do, where they only think that they're right and everything that they do is 100% right. So what do you think, Ed? Do you think that that's happening? Do you see that happening in your world?
Oh, absolutely. The easiest way for someone to stop an argument is to call someone a racist. Okay, so that argument, that tactic is used by people who don't have an argument. They
That's what it is.
That's what it is. They see, and they can see the argument going against them, and so they can see where the breadcrumbs are going. You're a racist, and that ends the discussion. Then you can't. There's nowhere to go after that. And
it's very strange, man. It's a very strange thing to do.
I'm not surprised at all. Listen, I've lived with that my whole life. They throw around words like fascism and racism, like they know what they're talking about. They do not know what they're talking, because the idea of shouting down someone with a different opinion, that is the definition of fascism. That's what fascism is. So that's why in America, we've enshrined the First Amendment, the right to free speech, in our Constitution, and that one little amendment differentiates us from most of the rest of the world. Most countries do not have a right to free speech. I know in the UK they have hate speech laws. So if they deem your speech offensive, you can go to jail. Well, in America, we say it's critical that everyone should have the right to say the most vile things you can imagine. Goodness knows there are a lot of things I wish people would, just shut up. The communists and wokeists for that matter. But I will defend their right for their stupid opinions to the death. Okay, and that's a difference. That's a big difference between America and most of the rest of the world. We have people coming to our country who can't believe what they hear on TV. They can't believe the stuff that's being said. He can say that and not be put in jail? He can say that? People are amazed. So free speech is so important. But one of the key differences between the left side and the right side is on the left is the difference between agreeableness and non-agreeableness. Okay, so the people on the left tend to be non-agreeable. Okay, there's a whole Jordan Peterson has done segments how the agreeable guys tend not to get the girls because they're nice guys. They don't want to offend someone. And they tend not to get the big promotions. That's why women tend not to get the big promotions, because women tend to be more agreeable. They don't want to cause any trouble. They don't want to create any friction. But the guys tend to be less agreeable, so they'll go for it. They'll fight for that promotion. So agreeableness and non-agreeableness, those are actual physical traits. And on the left side, they tend to be very disagreeable people. What I mean by that, not the term, I'm talking about their frame of mind, right? And the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And the leftists know that, and so they make the noise to get what they want. people on the right, conservative, they tend not to think, whatever, the guy's shouting profanities at him. He's calling him a racist. He's like, yeah, whatever. He doesn't take him seriously. Yeah, whatever. Okay. It's that kind of attitude. Oh, yeah. Okay. Whatever. They don't see the value in engaging in those kind of stupid arguments. But you get the leftists, they will scream and scream. And for them, I don't know, maybe it's therapy. And that permeates into politics and everything else. So that's why people like Tucker Carlson is so important, because he represents the idea of defending free speech. And yes, he's got traditional values and conservative values, but part of those conservative values is the belief in free speech. So whereas he will disagree with someone who has an opinion on a topic that is completely antithetical to his way of thinking, he will also defend that person's right to say what they're saying. And that's so important. It's very easy to defend the right of the person you agree with, but the important thing is to be able to defend the right of the people you don't agree with. And Tucker Carlson, again, he's a bastion. He was a lone voice. He is a lone representative in the media for that school of thought. And the loss of him at Fox News is a big blow to Fox News, in my opinion, not financially, but he's going to leave a void. I worry that Fox is going to go down a very bad road. I hope not, but it feels that way.
What that little monologue that you just had there, I think, is the reason why Tucker Carlson matters. And again, I just bring it back. Like, why do you care? Why does it matter? Who cares? He's just some guy on TV. Who cares what he says? Well, the reason that it matters is for the reasons that you just described, and it actually sparks a conversation about this. And it's more important than ever to have this conversation, because I don't want to be labeled a racist or a misogynist because I have a different opinion to you. But I saw some funny footage of The View. If you ever watched that show, it's like pulling teeth, right? It's like nails on a chalkboard. When I'm in the gym in the morning, sometimes when I'm doing a warm up on the exercise bike or the treadmill, I look up and I can see that show on the screen, and I find myself physically looking away, like just thinking I'm physically repulsed by those people. But there's nothing wrong with the people, right? And I can't even hear it, but I'm physically repulsed by the opinions that they have, because they're so unpleasant, and you just wouldn't want to be in the room with them. And yesterday they announced on that show, it was actually really funny that Tucker had been axed, and they're doing this stupid dance, and they're making fun of it. And the people in the crowd are cheering and clapping and all this carry on. And I couldn't help but think that they're sitting there thinking, thank God we don't have to listen to this guy anymore. And that's what they're cheering, right? Is thank God I don't have to listen to him, even though he has just as much right as them to actually say whatever he wants to say.
Well, yeah. I mean, conservatives don't do that when liberals get axed. They don't celebrate.
I don't know. I kind of did a little dance and a jig when Don Lemon was axed. That guy was an idiot, right?
Yeah. But you're not going to go on TV. You're not going to go on TV and denigrate them.
Not like publicly like they did on The View.
Between conservatives and liberals. Liberals will celebrate the other side's failures, and they'll mock them for it, and they'll rub it in their faces. There's no grace on that side of the aisle. But listen, it's important. It's always important to listen to the side you disagree with, because that's how you avoid wars. Right, Rob?
You need to talk to everybody. You need to talk to the dictator, to the war criminal, to the terrorist, and you got to prevent everything.
You have to appreciate their point of view. Even if you disagree with it, you have to understand their point of view and then come up with the argument against it. Okay, but you know what, guys? Fear not. Tucker Carlson is not gone. In my opinion, this is gonna make him bigger than ever. I think he's gonna come. Yeah, I think he could. So those people in The View, a year from now, they're gonna look back and whoa, they're gonna, oh boy, did we screw up? Did we celebrate too quickly? He's gonna come back. People like Glenn Beck and Megyn Kelly, they found alternative ways to get their message out. So people who want to hear all sides of a story, or they want to hear from Tucker, they're going to be able to get it. Tucker is going to find it. And when this happened, as I think about this event, that when the news came out, I kept getting the same image in my head that I couldn't get it out. And I thought, let's put together a little video and share it. I want to share a video with the guys. So this is the way I kind of see this event.